everybody. Welcome back to Chronically Fabulous. I know I have been gone for nearly a year, and I'm very sorry for that hiatus. But a lot has changed in a year, and I felt it would be only appropriate for the next, for the next video that I put up, my return, would be to discuss the psychological impacts of chronic illness and chronic pain. Because I was never prepared for the mental and emotional struggles that would come along with being sick. I can't even begin to describe the feeling that from the time I hit puberty. So I started showing signs of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in grade 8. So between the ages of 13 and 14 is when it started to come out. So my entire adolescent and young adult life has been pain. I don't know what it's like to not be in pain. Also, I'm recording on my laptop, so I'm sorry if the recording is a little weird. But anyways, there is not enough discussion about how hopeless it feels to be sick at such a young age. The idea that I'm 19 and a half right now, and humans on average have a lifespan of 71 years. I cannot imagine living my whole life like this. But that is life. That is something that I will eventually have to learn to cope with until a cure or something comes along. And even when a cure does come along, it's probably, it will probably miss me. I will probably be too late for that. But it's very emotionally strenuous to have to deal with the idea that you are not like other people. You will never be like other people. I have only had one job at 19 and a half, and that was only because I got lucky finding a fucking call center position, because I needed a job where I could sit down. Any and all jobs that are available for people in my age bracket, you're either on your feet the entire time, doing manual labor, which I can't do either of those, or needing to actually just, like, be a fucking functional human being. To be able to do trades, or to be able to do, like, anything. And workplaces are not accessible enough. Jobs for people with disabilities are not accessible enough. There's not nearly enough conversation within the employment community to make sure that people with disabilities have options. So that's another emotional stressor, because I have to rely on ODSP, which is Ontario Disability, Ontario Disability Support Program. So basically it's money that the government gives me once a month. But at the end of the day, that money, when it comes to paying the rent that I pay for the house that I live in, because I live with my family, but I'm living with my grandma, she's fucking 72, I'm not gonna, like, expect to live for free. The money that I have to give them, the bills I need to pay right off the bat, the obligatory things that you need to cover, not even talking about food, not even talking about shopping for clothes, not even talking about anything that is, like, a non-necessity, adds up to at least $500 or $600, and that's because I'm really lucky with my living situation. But at the end of the day, if it's $500 or $600 off the bat, the joke's on me, because I only get $800 for the whole fucking month. So that leaves me about $250 to $300 to last the entire month. God forbid I need to refill my prescriptions, or I have to make an emergency trip somewhere that's going to cost me money, or I need to pay off, like, something that I didn't see coming, or have a trip that I need to plan and have to put money aside for. It's fucking damn near impossible to save any money. I struggle a lot with life in general, being disabled, and the biggest fucking hurdles that I've been dealing with in the last year have been my mental health. I was recently diagnosed with, and through a fucking proper psychiatrist at, like, fucking a proper hospital, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety, OCD, bipolar disorder, and borderline personality disorder, on top of having bouts of major depressive disorder, because of the childhood trauma that I had to go through for a very long time, and the emotional and psychological stress that is caused by having a disability and knowing I'm never going to get better. Because at the end of the day, coping is just accepting a shitty thing that you don't like but know you can't change. But when you're coping with something, every once in a while you can't cope anymore, and you need to be able to fucking let it out. And unfortunately, I haven't had the best coping skills for a lot of my life, because my mom and dad were both relatively busy with different things in my childhood that I would prefer not to talk about, because, like, my mom has been fucking wonderful my entire life. But because of the shit my dad did, she had to take care of him as if he was a third child, and my twin brother and I ended up pretty much being left to, like, deal with shit ourselves and, like, rely on each other. And I'm extremely thankful for Chris, because by fucking fluke, we've both ended up in, like, each of us have ended up in a body that we don't like. And if this is your first video you're watching of me, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and chronic fatigue syndrome, and Chris, my brother, my twin brother, is transgender. So whether it's body dysphoria or gender dysphoria or a physical disability or chronic illness, it's so weird to feel like someone actually understands. Even if it's not the exact same thing, it helps me cope to know that he kind of gets it. In his own way, I can put faith in the fact that he will understand and not judge. But when it comes to, say, social situations, I have a much harder time making friends, keeping friends, sustaining friends. And because that's either I want to help too much, or I am very stubborn and not able to, like, I don't process things very well anymore. I'm overly empathetic and not able to read people, or at least read negative emotions well enough. I could help with someone who is feeling really depressed or overwhelmed and things like that, but as soon as it's a negative, aggressive emotion, like just in general someone just not liking me for whatever reason, I can't process that, because I'm like, what did I do? What's wrong with me? What have I done wrong? Because the OCD just kind of backtrack. With my OCD, I don't have the outward compulsions that would normally be associated with OCD, like the stereotypical OCD. So I'm not counting to, like, a specific number. I'm not organizing my room and making it extremely clean all the time. What I did before I was on fucking antipsychotic medication is what they're called is intrusive thoughts. And basically they're thoughts that you're not actively thinking about, but your subconscious just butts right into your conscious mind and just injects a thought right there. And for me, this presented itself in very vivid mental imagery, and a lot of the time it was violent and awful and gory. And the thing that I explained to my psych that he totally got is, like, it's so distressing to me because that's not me. I don't think like that. There's no reason that I should be sitting on a bus minding my own fucking business, and then suddenly, like, I look over, I see a buggy with a pole sticking out of it, and then my brain instantly goes, oh, if the bus driver slammed on the brakes, someone could fly down the bus and just fucking impale themselves on that pole. Like, having just instantly a random thought like that just shoot through your mind about someone you've never talked to in a situation you've never been in before is so extremely distressing. And I ended up majorly isolating myself over the last year. Because my mental health was getting so bad, and because I wasn't physically coping with my chronic illness very well. I ended up isolating myself in my room for at least like 17, 18 hours a day, only leaving to go to the bathroom, which was right out my door, or going to the kitchen to make toast, or to go out to the back porch to have a cigarette, and that's it. And then I would go back to my room. And unfortunately, I just couldn't cope. And when I was isolating myself, it was my way of trying to protect myself. I felt like if I didn't leave my room, I wouldn't get any of that outside stimulus, and I wouldn't even give my brain the chance to fucking pick something and make it into something awful. But that's not how brains work. They work around your fucking wannabe coping mechanisms. And I ended up having very serious paranoia that I'm on the second floor of my house, and there's like an overhang that is the roof of the back porch that leads out my window. And so when I was at my window and the roof was here, I would think that someone was sitting on the roof outside my window. Or I thought that I could hear people walking around the house even when I knew I was supposed to be home alone. And so it was stuff, like my brain was just like, hey man, you're gonna change our circumstances? We're gonna change our circumstances. Fuck your shit. It doesn't matter what you want to cope with. We're gonna make it so that way your everyday life is fucking insufferable. And so I ended up needing to go through all of that, and then I had just a really fucking rough period where I was switching medication from one medication to the antipsychotic. It was, I think it was like an anti-anxiety medication that I was on before, and then I switched to the antipsychotic. But oh my god, I hate fucking telling this story. So from the day that I cut off on the first medication to 3 weeks on the new medication, within the first week, the first 5 days, okay, antipsychotic medication takes a while to build up in your system. So it's not immediately effective. So if you're taking yourself off of, if you're being taken off of one medication and you're starting another, there's gonna be a period of time where that new medication isn't doing shit. And I didn't know that. And I also didn't know that I was starting to show signs of bipolar type 2. And then as soon as I changed the medication, like literally like a day or two after I stopped the first medication and was like on the new medication, for the first 5 days, I was pretty much constantly manic, which was the weirdest fucking thing to me because I'd never experienced it before. And I was like spacey and floaty and felt like everything was kind of just like not as bad as I thought it was, and that I was just fine, and it's fine, it's fine. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. But I've been trying very hard to get to the bottom of what makes me feel so shitty. And a lot of the trauma that I had to deal with in childhood, even before my disability, caused a lot of mental health issues. But then having a chronic illness on top of that, on top of the fact that my brother's trans, on top of the fact that my dad has been through a lot of things, and he's actually not even in my life anymore. I have distanced myself from him because I don't want anything to do with him. And my mom being the way that she is, where she was trying to like run a family business. She had that business going for 20 years while trying to deal with all of the bullshit my dad just kept throwing at us. And when I was young, I didn't understand any of the shit that was going on. And as I got older and I learned more and more, it felt almost like my childhood was a lie, even though I'm very well aware that it wasn't, even though I'm very well aware that my mom was not telling us stuff because it wasn't age appropriate. We didn't need to know. But as I got older and I got to the age where I could understand, I felt like young me was just so naive to the situation, didn't know a fucking thing about what was going on, and that breaks my heart. And unfortunately, I can't remember much below the age of like 15. Because like other than other than like the accident that I had when I was 2.5 that gave me the scar on my forehead, and the first time that I subluxed my shoulder, which was in grade 8, and I was like 13, 14 at the time. I can't remember any of my childhood. I can't remember even the good memories. And that's not on purpose. That's just my memory repressing itself because it doesn't want to deal with all of the stuff that it now knows. It's just like, nope. I remember like a few very distinct instances of like things that happened. It just makes me sad to like look back and think, I'm sorry, young Emily and young Chris. Or Chris back in the day. But just two young girls just not understanding what was going on. And it's not like it was, like, I'm not talking, in terms of my dad, I'm not talking about sexual abuse or anything like that. I'm not talking even about physical abuse. My dad was extremely emotionally and mentally abusive, but it wasn't directed at us. It was more so the actions that he consistently did without taking into account how badly it was affecting us as a family unit. And just all of that kind of built up, and I am the way that I am now because of my constant mental health struggles. And even though that sucks, it's life. And I have learned so much from all of the shitty experiences I've ever had to go through. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to my rambles. This is my first video back, so hopefully I will be doing another one soon. But anyway, thank you again for stopping by. It's Emily Burke from Chronically Fabulous, and I will see you guys next time.